Hello my friends and welcome to Star Wars for 100 Days, the ultimate fan countdown leading up to the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. We are officially 20 days away from the release of the 7th chapter in the greatest sci-fi saga of all time. As far as being a pop culture icon, Star Wars is a juggernaut. So it only makes sense that over time there would be a lot of classic parodies of the series. We've seen it in TV shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Robot Chicken. But for me personally, at the end of the day, my favorite parody of Star Wars thus far is the classic 1980s Mel Brooks film, Spaceballs. Personally, I believe that Spaceballs is the last good Mel Brooks movie. That's not to say his future works aren't a lot of fun, but this one just sort of has that classic spirit, like some of the ones from the 1970s, like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles. It was just sort of wrapped up in 80s culture. And it didn't just parody Star Wars, it poked fun at a lot of classic sci-fi, like Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Alien, and even The Wizard of Oz. But for the most part, the overall tone and art style is definitely emulating Star Wars. Now, the story is very simple. It's basically the prince saving the princess from the evil empire. Really what makes this movie so strong are just the ridiculous characters, all of which are incredibly memorable. The main hero of the film is Captain Lone Star, who's played by Bill Pullman. This character is kind of like a combination of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, with a dash of Indiana Jones. This character is really funny, and he wields the power of the Schwartz. That's basically the parody of the Force in this movie. Why is it called the Schwartz? I don't know, but it leads to a lot of dick jokes. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Lone Star at first is the gruff hero, but over time grows a relationship with the princess and ends up finding that he's a prince himself and ends up saving the galaxy from the evil Imperious forces. But he can't do it alone. He is joined by Barf, who is basically a parody of Chewbacca, and he's played by the late great John Candy. John Candy did a fantastic job in this role and really enveloped himself in all of the ridiculous makeup and mannerisms of being a Mog. That's the alien species that he is. He's a Mog, half man, half dog. He's his own best friend. Princess Vespa is played by the beautiful Daphne Zuniga, and this character is basically like a really feisty version of Princess Leia, who has tendencies of getting really violent really quick, and she also fears having her old nose put back on her face. Late-night legend Joan Rivers is also the voice of the robot Dot Matrix, who actually has a virgin alarm. There's also a fantastic parody of Yoda, as well as the Wizard of Oz and the character of Yogurt, who's played masterfully by Mel Brooks, who is actually walking around on his knees to make himself seem a lot smaller, and he's covered with this ridiculous makeup. And he is the holder of the power of the Schwartz, and he's also the master of merchandising. Basically, his character is there to poke fun at the fact that during the 1980s and still now, there is just a ridiculous amount of Star Wars crap. So much useless stuff that you would not need. Spaceballs the t-shirt, Spaceballs the coloring book, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the flamethrower! The kids love it. Basically, Yogurt is just a super Jewish Yoda. But the best characters from this film, without a doubt, are the villains. Holy crap, they're all hilarious. Not only is Mel Brooks playing Yogurt, but he's also playing the leader of the Imperious forces, President Scroob. This is actually their salute. The Imperious forces are so incompetent and stupid and such an extreme exaggeration of the Empire that it's just downright silly, especially Mel Brooks' character, who is basically this just super horny president who doesn't want to take responsibility for anything. But he's also joined by Dark Helmet, who is an amazingly funny parody of Darth Vader, played by Rick Moranis, and honestly I think one of his funniest roles ever. He brings so much life to this hilarious man-child of a character who has this ridiculously oversized helmet, and yet he sounds real evil when he has the visor down, but when he pulls it up and you actually see his face, he just goes back to this whiny, sniveling character, and it's absolutely hilarious. If not his costume, or the fact that he's wearing like this little tie, just one of the funniest characters from the entire movie, who has honestly some of the best dialogue, especially the entire ludicrous speed sequence. What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken? My brains are going into my feet! Speaking of Colonel Sanders, holy crap, this character just gets funnier every single time I see the movie. He's played by George Weiner, and this guy has some of the most amazing expressions that I have ever seen. Basically, he's like the second in command to Dark Helmet. But just watching the way he, like, actually notices the camera is watching them, because this movie breaks the fourth wall all the time, is honestly one of the best things about this film. The entire Imperious forces themselves are also just incredibly funny. The guy from frickin' Police Academy, who does all of the weird sounds, plays one of these guys and makes this just amazingly ridiculous sci-fi sounds that are so funny that you can actually see the actors laughing as he's delivering the lines. There's the guys combing the desert, the guy with the afro pick, the assholes. The Imperious forces also have this ship, which is the biggest frickin' ship in sci-fi history. In fact, the opening scene of the film, you get to see their ship just passing by the screen, and it goes by for 1 minute and 38 seconds. What's really funny about the scene is not just the fact that it's just a ridiculously long ship and the scene just goes on for way too long, is that you can actually hear the orchestra getting pissed off and actually getting louder as if they're annoyed by the fact that this ship is not done passing yet. Even Lone Star Ship is hilarious. It's basically just a big Winnebago with wings on it. Basically, they took the Millennium Falcon's concept and just made it even more dingier. There's also even more classic references. We got John Hurt from Aliens who returns to have this alien burst out of his chest in a restaurant, and then it starts singing "Hello my baby, hello my honey" in a reference to a Looney Tunes cartoon. The Spaceballs ship transforms into a giant maid. They end with a Planet of the Apes reference. The movie is just insane. It's an amazing parody of sci-fi in general, but it's also just one of the greatest statements about Star Wars and its impact on pop culture. This is sort of like the collective juices of all of that, and it's all done with an amazingly funny and ridiculous script. So, if you wanted to see a Star Wars parody, start with Spaceballs. It's the perfect appetizer before you start jumping into the robot chickens. So are you a fan of Spaceballs? Have you ever seen this classic Mel Brooks film? Do you have a favorite scene or character that you'd like to tell me about? Please tell me in the comments section below. And do you guys have any other favorite Star Wars parodies, whether they be on TV or somewhere on the internet? Please tell me about them. Send me links to them. I'd love to check them out. And make sure to tell me what you guys want to see from Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, may the Schwartz be with you!